Today's metric is the cost of turnover. So, the cost of turnover can be looked at in multiple ways. So, I want to give that big asterisk in the beginning. This is just one approach, there's several. So, one of the more popular approaches, especially if you're looking at it from an HR lens, would be to think about things like how much time does the recruiter have to spend on backfilling the role, any kind of resources that were used, right, other than the recruitment hours for that recruiter, right? So things like if you had to post a job posting on LinkedIn, or if you outsourced it to an agency to help support backfilling that role and what may have you. You could even include how much it might cost for training if that role, has a required training that represents a cost, right? And then even things like, depending on the termination, if there are any kind of severances, or payments attached to that termination, all of those things could come together and represent the cost of a termination. However, if you want to level it up and make it more strategic, I would ask you to think about things that impact the business. So, for example, if we had a sales associate leave and that sales associate is expected to sell $1.6 million worth of product and services within a year time frame. Once you lose that person, the clock starts ticking on how much of that money you could, recover. So if you hire a person next day, you only lost a day's worth of cost. However, we know that it takes time to identify a candidate. So if it takes you 3 months to, let's say, identify the candidate, and then that person has to go for training for a month, now you've lost 4 months worth of whatever that sales goals breaks down to, right, for a 4-month period. And I would ask you to include that into your turnover calculation, because that would give you more power and better context for that sales leader when you tell them, hey, you got to get turnover under control in your group, because this is what it's breaking down to financially and revenue, not just from the HR side, but in your group too. So I want to hear from you. How are you leveling up your metrics, especially with things like cost of turnover? All right. Let me know what you think in the comments. And until next time, happy analyzing.